List of theories. This is a dynamic list and may never be able to satisfy particular standards for completeness. You can help. Yeah. This is a list of that are notable. Many are related to clandestine plans or elaborate murder plots. Theories usually deny consensus or cannot be proven using the historical or scientific method and are not to be confused with research and considered verified, such as Germany's pretense for invading Poland. In principle, are not always false by default, and their validity depends on evidence, just as any theory. However, they are often discredited as a pari due to the cumbersome and improbable nature of many of them. Psychologists attribute finding a where there is none to form a cognitive bias is called illusionary pattern perception. Aviation. Numerous theories pertain to air travel and aircraft incidents such as the 55 bombing of the Kashmir Princess, the 85 Arrow Air Flight, the 1986, 87, the 98 of Pan Am, as well as various aircraft technology and legislations, all have spawned theories of foul play which deviate from official verdicts. The theory goes with that is that these planes can be remote controlled. That's the theory that goes with them, that they were taken over. This theory emerged in the US in the 60s. The John Birch Society originally promoted it, asserting that UN force would soon arrive in black helicopters to bring US under UN control. This theory re-emerged in the 90s during President Bill Clinton and has been promoted by talk show host Glenn Beck. A similar theory concerning so-called phantom helicopters appeared in UK in the 70s. SLAP, a secret large-scale atmospheric program. This theory allegedly that the water condensation trails from aircraft consist of chemical or biological. They contain a supposedly toxic mix of allium, strontium, and barium. And what does aluminium, strontium, barium equal on the element chart? Okay, so you got Al, S, and Ba. So you got Ba, Al, and then S, bowels. Under the secret government policy, an estimated 17%, there's that number again, of people globally believe the theory to be true or partially true. In 2016, the Carnegie Institute for Science published the first ever peer-reviewed study of the theory. 76 out of 77 participating atmospheric chemists and geochemists stated that they have seen no evidence to support this theory, or stated that the theories rely on poor sampling. I'll leave this link in the description for you. It doesn't exist. Manipulation doesn't exist. It's a crazy theory. It's not scientifically possible. All of these phrases have been repeated and a nuisance by mainstream media for years. Suddenly, however, now mainstream media outlets can do and openly discuss all weather programs from both corporation and foreign governments. China's doing it. Cloud seeding. Our state recently allowed cloud seeding in, I think it was the late 90s, 96, they allowed it. See? It does exist. In 2008, China launched a cloud seeding project in Beijing right before the Olympics that caused rain to fall before the event started. China devoted $30 million to cloud seeding and began firing bullets filled with salt and minerals into the sky. China's not the only one. UAE has established a programming. Gates has a project called Solar Engineering. And here is another man that does it. I've been speaking to him for a few years now. He has a white paper out. He offered to end the Australian drought for $100 million, but was rejected. He said no payment up front. Refused to accept a payment, and they totally rejected it. I'll leave the links in the description. Korean air flights. Theories range from allegations of planned espionage mission, US cover-up, to consumption of passengers remains by giant crabs. Okay. MH370. Others suggest the plane was hidden away and introduced as Flight MH17. Yeah, I've heard many theories on that. Later in the same year, ordered to be shot down over Ukraine for political purpose, American theorist has placed responsibility for the disappearance when then Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has promoted a theory that hackers remotely took over the Boeing Honeywell autopilot, remotely piloting the aircraft to Antarctica. No, apparently it went to Diego Garcia Base, which is near Madagascar. MH17 shot down, which is supposed to be MH330. Deepwater Horizon, alleged sabotaging by those seeking to promote environmentalism, or a strike by North Korean and Russian submarines. Evidence such theories has been suggested or promoted by US radio host Rush Limbaugh. New Coke, New Theories claims Coca-Cola Company intentionally changed to an inferior formula of New Coke with intentions of either driving up demand for the original product or permitting the reintroduction of the original with a new formula using cheaper ingredients. Coca-Cola President Donald Coe rebutted this chance. The truth is, we're not that dumb and we're not that smart. Deaths and disappearances. Prominent leaders, public figures in ancient times, widespread theories were circulated pertaining to the death of Roman Emperor Nero, who committed suicide in 68 AD. Some of these theories claim that Nero had actually faked his death and was secretly still alive but in hiding, plotting to return and reestablish his reign. Most of these stories is said to have fled to the east, where he was still loved and admired. Other theories held that Nero was actually dead and that he returned from the dead to retake his throne. Many early Christians believed in this theory and feared Nero's return because Nero had viciously persecuted him. Book of Revelation alludes to the theory surrounding Nero's alleged return in its description of the slaughtered head returned to life. So we got Kennedy. Yeah, we got Lincoln, Martin Luther King. There are so many. So many. We got the Beatles one where Paul is dead, died in a car accident in '66, replaced by a lookalike Scottish orphan named William Cheers Campbell, who also went by the name Billy Shears. Beatles left clues in their songs, most notably Revolution 9, Strawberry Fields Forever, Glass Onion, I Am the Walrus, as well as covers on Abbey Road, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club, Magical Mystery Tour. Another is a theory widely circulated in Niagara, which alleges that a Niagaran president, Mohammed Batu, died in 2017 and was replaced by a lookalike Sudanese imposter. Many fans of pop punk star Avril Lavigne claim that she died at the height of her fame, replaced by a lookalike named Melissa. Yeah, the one that's singing now doesn't even sound like her. The Melinda Trump replacement theory proposes the same for Forest UL lady. It was personally supposed to be that pastor, I think he's Bob someone. Hitler survived. They reckon Stalin was actually King Bertie, or one of those ones with the British. It was supposed to be one of them. So, apparent with Madeleine McCann, apparently it was the Podestas that were in the area, and if you look at the sketch that was drawn, it looks like the oldest brother, Tony Podesta. This theory states that a group of international elites control governments, industry, media, organization with the goal of establishing global hegemony. They are alleged to implicate in the most major wars in the last 2 centuries, to carry out secretly staged events and deliberately manipulating economies. Organizations alleged to be a part of the plot include Federal Reserve, Council on Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission, Bilderberg Group, European Union, United Nations, World Bank, IMF, BM, Globalist, Creed, Yale University, Skull and Bones. Several more. There are several more. You got the Freemasons, the Eastern Stars. You got heaps. Some theorists believe that the DIA is the head of the NWO, and it has something underneath it. He's been subject to George Soros has been subject to theories. Apparently, he likes to pay, renter crowds and that. Freemasons involved in the sinking of the Titanic. Well, the Titanic was actually the Olympian rebranded. Crimes of Jack the Ripper. Well, Jack the Ripper was supposed to be one of the British royal family. Israel uses animals to attack people. Jeez. Middle Ages, they believe the wells were poisoned and ritually consumed the blood of Christians. The second half of the 19th century saw emergence notions of the Jews, Freemasons plotting to establish control of the world. I'll leave the links in the description. I ain't going to go into this too much. Freemason. See? A Freemason. I just can't read this crap. I really can't. Sorry. It just does my head in. It's unreal. I'm not even going to try and read this because it'll get struck down. I mean, you can't even upload many videos to YouTube about this topic. Oyster card RDFI chip. Yeah, they got them in our driver's license here in Australia. In your passports as well. So if you're going to go out to a protest, make sure you wrap your driver's license and your cards in foil. Or have one of those your fire protector wallets so they can't come up behind you and scan it without you knowing. Yeah, so there's some stuff that goes on in the world. So here's some that were true. US government poisoned alcohol prohibition was introduced in the 1920s to control the country's alcohol consumption, but that only resulted in widespread speakeasies, bootlegging, which is illegal production and distribution of alcohol. The prohibited law proved it wasn't enough to curb drinking habits, so the government took more drastic measures, decided to poison the country's illegal liquor supply by adding toxins, including highly lethal methanol, to alcohol in the mid-1920s, and a total estimated around 10,000 people died as a result of the government's poisoning. There was a gator machine developed by the Canadian government. Since Canadian wasn't always friendly as it reputed to be, in the 1950s, Canadian government hired a university professor to develop a machine that was supposed to be able to detect whether or not federal employees were gay or use the derogatory term fruits. Called the fruit machine, the apparatus measured pupil dilation in response to same-sex erotic imagery. As a result of this testing, which went on until the 1960s, many men lost their jobs. The First Lady acted as the President of the United States. President Woodrow Wilson's wife, 1919, President Woodrow Wilson suffered a massive stroke, so First Lady Edith Wilson began making suggestions on his behalf. She prevented the news and seriousness of Wilson's condition from getting out of the public. Instead, all that was said was that he needed rest and would be conducting official business from his bedroom suite. To prevent her husband from resigning, Edith became de facto president. Historians estimate that she led the country for a year and 5 months, right? The US government used dead body parts of and children for radioactive testing without permission. 1950s, the Atomic Agency Commission tested tissue samples from newly deceased children, babies to test the radioactive strontium-90, most severe threat to humans in the event of nuclear fallout. Throughout Project Sunshine, they gathered more than 1,500 samples throughout Europe, Australia, often without the parents' knowledge or consent, to test the hazard effects on human tissue. Years later, a British woman named Jean Pritchard reported that she hadn't been allowed to dress her stillborn daughter's body for a funeral in 1975 because she later found out her baby's legs had been removed by a British doctor shipped to the US government. No one asked me about doing things like that, taking bits and pieces from her, she said. Playing football can cause brain damage. When a massive organisation like the NFL doesn't want a story to hit out, they surely do anything to keep the evidence hidden. This was indeed the case of leaking football to brain damage. In 2002, forensic pathologist Bennett Ulmer ruled the professional football player Mike Webster's death was due to a football-related brain imaging, but the NFL strongly dismissed these claims. However, 7 years later, the NFL finally did acknowledge the link between the players' concussions and brain damage. Earned Doctor of the American Medical Association's highest honor, and a movie about him called The Concussion starring Will Smith. Well, we know boxing does concussion as well. CIA secret gave LSD to unsuspecting individuals to test mind control. 1953-64, the CIA secretly dosed individuals with LSD to detect potential effects of mind control during the practice called MK Ultra. Thousands of US citizens were given LSD without their knowledge or consent. 1973, CIA Director Richard Helms ordered the destruction of all records related to MK Ultra. So now there's very little evidence that remains, but this immoral research was likely responsible for some of the resulting deaths. One of the most multiple was Frank Olson, United States Army chemist, biological weapons researcher, who was also given LSD without his knowledge or consent in November 53. The Gulf of Tonkin attack never happened. 1964, President Lyndon Johnson told the public that U.S. ships were attacked by Vietnamese, known as the Gulf of Tonkin attack, to gain support of American citizens for the Vietnam War. However, a year later, Johnson admitted there was no attack and was quoted saying, "For all I know, our Navy was shooting at whales out there." 2005 official documents from the National Security Agency released that confirmed that the whole Gulf of Tonkin attack never happened and was fabricated to gain the support of the war. Yeah, we know they've been investigating and doing that shit. 28 men died of treatable syphilis in the name of science. Tuskegee study on treated syphilis was a public health service study. Began in 1932. Recruited 600 poor black men from Alabama. And subjects and men were told they received treatment for bad blood, a colloquinase for syphilis, anemia, and fatigue, but they were misled. Researchers continued the experiment even after penicillin was proven to treat syphilis in 1945. Researchers finally stopped in 1972. New York Times published a story about the title typhus. Syphilis victims in the U.S. study were untreated for 40 years. Over those 4 decades, 28 men died of syphilis, more than 100 men died from related causes. Tobacco companies hit evidence smoking is deadly. We know that one. The world's richest and most powerful men have a retreat every year. Each July, some of the wealthiest powerful men in the world gather at Campground, California for 2 weeks, heavily drinking, super secret talks, strange rituals that have come to the retreat called Bohemian Grove. They have included prominent business leaders, former U.S. presidents, musicians, oil barons. Participants aren't supposed to conduct business deals, but there was one exception in 1942 for the Manhattan Project, which led to the creation of the atom bomb. Reportedly, plenty of misbehaving goes on at Bohemian Grove as well. FBI spied on John Lennon. Because of his anti-war songs like Give Peace a Chance, John Lennon was considered a threat to the Nixon administration. In 1971, the FBI put Lennon under surveillance, and the Immigration and Naturalized Service tried to deport him the following year, according to the CIA records. They feared he would disrupt the 1972 Republican convention, so the CIA joined with the FBI in gathering intelligence on him. The U.S. government employed, yeah, we know that one, Operation Paperclip. CIA developed a heart attack gun. CIA revealed a secret weapon that could cause fatal heart attacks. It worked by shooting a small poison dart that could penetrate clothing and left behind nothing but a tiny red dot in the skin. The dart disintegrated in impact, targeted only feel a small prick, similar to a bug bite. Since the poison detonated quickly, it could not be detected in the autopsy. Therefore, the CIA could carry out assassinations that many wouldn't be traced back to them. Many believe the CIA still uses this weapon today. CIA spied and controlled the American media, still do today. 19 Mockingbird. US Air Force research using pheromones as a weapon. Create a bomb that would douse the enemy troops in female pheromones. Jeez. Dalai Lama was a CIA agent. Number 17. 1960s, CIA provided the Tibetan resistance with 1.7 million a year to aid guerrilla operations against China, which include an annual subsidy of 180,000 to the Dalai Lama. In 1998, the Dalai Lama's administration acknowledged that it did receive these funds for the CIA, but denied reports that the Tibetan leader benefited personally from this subsidy. Instead, they insisted that it went towards setting up offices in Geneva and New York, as well as some money spent on international lobbying. US government's watching your internet. The government is using its vast resources to track citizens via their online activities. In fact, according to the Electronic Frontier Foundation, in 2016 government agencies sent 49,868 records for user data to Facebook, 27,850 to Google, and 9,076 to Apple. EFF is a major non-profit organisation which defends civil liberties in the digital world and advises the public on internet privacy matters. But now with the Crash network, where they all the devices work together, the Internet of Things, it's yeah. Polio, we know about that one, don't we? There we go. US can manipulate the weather. Operation Popeye was a 5-year project in the US which used a technical cloud seeding to increase precipitation during the raining season over North Vietnam, moving vehicles, weapons, and rations across the trail. The general idea of cloud seeding is to send airborne objects, typically an airplane, flying through a cloud while releasing small particles that gave water vapor something to cling to so they can condense and become rain. But hang on. The other page back there said it's not right. That's not real. Department of Defense paid for the Patriot 2015, Senator Arizona's John McCain and Jeff Flake published a report saying the Department of Defense had spent millions of dollars to have sports organizations put large shows to display American pride. This included several teams, NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL, and others, including athletic departments, several universities. These shows were meant to drive up military recruitment. In 2016, the NFL agreed to reimburse U.S. taxpayers more than $720,000 of the so-called paid patriotism money. Operation Northwoods. Yeah, I remember this girl. She was crying about babies. 1990, I remember that. Leading up to the Gulf War, a young girl identified simply as Nara testified before the Congressional Human Rights Caucus in 90. She told stories about treatment of the Kuwaitis by invading Iraqis, which horrified members of Congress and many Americans, although many people did die following Iraq invasion. Her testimony was made up. She was actually the daughter of a Kuwaiti ambassador to the US, and her testimony was set up as part of this public relations campaign called Citizens for Free Kuwait, run by Hill and Knowlton public relations firm. It was long believed that Hitler's skull was that of a woman. Russians did a test on the skull and they said it was actually of a young woman. Hunted down through a fake vaccine program. CIA ran a fake program which eventually led to the capture of. They had Bin Laden DNA on file thanks to his sister who lived in Boston. The goal was to obtain DNA from one of his children who was living at the compound with him, matched it to his sister DNA. Then they could confirm with certainty that he was indeed inside. Pakistani doctor went through the city under the guise of a vaccination program, collected DNA samples. They identified his DNA through his children, which successfully led to his capture in 2011. I hadn't heard that one. I don't know that one, which makes me question all these swabs they're sticking up people's noses. How cool is this one? Wonder where that is. That looks really cool. This is unreal. Why don't we build like this anymore? Unreal. Relics of the World's Fair. Would have been beautiful to go inside of it. Oh, an airship over France. Cool. That a few times. See how fresh all that is. Wow. Goes up really steep. I don't think Marcel's. It's unreal. Between 1890 and 19, cable railway Marseilles, France. Is this for power or is it for grinding grain? What's it for? Or a pulley system? At the building of the Eiffel Tower? Or is it a drawing? Can't see much of those concrete pillars that were mentioned a few weeks ago. This looks like the lift that goes up it. Someone mentioned there's no photos of the Statue of Liberty being built, but that clearly looks like a photo of the Statue of Liberty being built. Looks like it. Apparently it's supposed to be the Colossus of Rhodes statue that was redressed. It was supposed to go to the Suez Canal, but they didn't want it. No way. That's crazy. All the wood. Wow. The Flatron building. These buildings are everywhere. I think there's one in Sydney as well. There's the poor tree they killed. Uh, Price of plans, specifications $15 for plan. They're those cute houses that they build. Dude wearing ski boots. Looks like a ship. Wow. Wow. What's this one supposed to be? Mystery object uncovered in Giza. Gateway of the Gods. There you go. Looks like a Stargate. See the writing a bit better. These old computers. It's what it is. It's a computer. Get another Stargate. If you don't know what some of these old things here are check out Wise Up channel. You know, yeah, you can come across as yeah, I'm not going to say the word, but I guess he's sick of people not listening. But he has some pretty cool explanations for what things really are. It was supposed to be a mechanical, was it? Turned to stone. (1991's) the airships there. It's almost like a plane with balloons to it. Airship regatta. You wouldn't be allowed to do that now. Launching from platform Grand EF, following the historical Mr. Talk 2 dumbbell flight path. Sky piracy alert. Jagger Scouts Auxiliary Program. I wouldn't be surprised if it was real. See that movie Mortal Engines, and then there's another show where it's all on. I think it's like a Peter Pan one where they're all on the airships. No way.